Welcome to the video recording of Women Veterans Getting Their Due, a Women's History Month conversation with New York State Veterans Services. This event took place over Zoom on March 15, 2022. This video begins with a slideshow highlighting the military service of 4 historic women veterans in New York, lasting approximately 2 minutes. The event itself takes place after that. Thank you for watching. So I would like to give an official welcome to everybody. Welcome to Women Veterans Getting Their Due, a Women's History Month conversation with New York State Veterans Services. My name is Kristen Rouse. I am a proud veteran of the United States Army, and I serve as Deputy Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at New York State DVS. I'm so proud of the program and each of the panelists we have for you today. And I am so grateful, again, that each and every one of you has chosen to spend your lunchtime with us. Our program today will highlight how women have served in our nation's military since the Revolutionary War, yet they are only now just beginning to get the recognition they've long been due. And throughout our nation's history, women who serve bravely in our military have not only had to fight for basic acknowledgement of their service, but they have also been denied monetary, health, and social benefits in comparison with their male veteran counterparts. As you saw in the slideshow we played as you logged in today, from Margaret Cochran Corbin, struggling just to clean herself and eat after suffering combat wounds in a Revolutionary War battle in New York City, to Deborah Sampson, who hid her bullet wounds just to be able to serve. And she was denied the pension she'd earned and badly needed up until just before her death. To Harriet Tubman, the American hero, who was denied her military pension for decades after her profoundly important military leadership in the Civil War. And Mary Edwards Walker, a doctor and the only woman ever awarded a Medal of Honor, having that award revoked later in her life. These stories may feel like long ago, but the US military placed needless restrictions on women's service up until 2013. And disparities in women veterans getting their due, the recognition they are due, and the services and benefits they rightfully earned those restrictions and limitations are still lingering to this day and pose real challenges that we'll talk about. This Women's History Month, we bring you this conversation with powerful and amazing women veterans who have worked in their careers to ensure that women veterans and all veterans receive the services and benefits they've earned. This year for Women's History Month, we are celebrating a first for New York State. The Marine Corps veteran who now heads our agency is the very first woman in our 76-year history to serve as director. She is out in the field today, but she recorded a welcome message for us. I bring you this message from Viviana DeCohen, Marine Corps veteran and director of the New York State Division of Veterans Services. If you'll bear with me and my screen share for just a moment, I will bring this to you.
Hello and welcome. Since the beginning of time, women have been an integral part of the tapestry of this great nation, often hidden, often invisible. Since the American Revolution to now, women have served gallantly, often unrewarded. But today, we seek what is next for us. We seek what is best for us. Today, we seek what is due to us.
So powerful. Always amazed by Director DeCohen. And we appreciate, yay Mama V. So she's our Mama V, and we're proud to bring her to you today. So for our panel today, we are so fortunate to be joined by amazing and powerful women veterans. First, I want to introduce you to Elizabeth Estabrooks, who I'm very glad that she could join us from DC. She's our only non-New Yorker here, but she's definitely one of us. A U.S. Army veteran, a former and longtime state women veteran coordinator from Oregon, and she's been serving these last few years as deputy director for the VA Center for Women Veterans, where she is at the forefront of the continuing improvement and cultural change for our women veterans at VA. So I would love to give Liz the floor if you can share a little bit about what you do and some of the changes recently and soon to come for women veterans at VA. Take it away, Liz.
Thanks, Kristen. Thanks so much for having me here. It's great to see you again, although it's not in person. We'll do that one day. So thank you to all the panelist members that are here today and for everybody joining. Women's History Month is one of my favorite months, of course. I'm a long fan of anything women. And so what we're doing at the Center for Women Veterans, we have initiatives all the time, but a lot of them are kind of shifting. One of them is, of course, the I Am Not Invisible campaign, which has really, I'd love to hear Vivian talk about the invisibility. That's something, women have talked about forever, because we all, as women veterans, know what that means. And so that exhibit, it's gone through some sort of transitions from just having photos to take and having them hung in VAs to having stories told to the Library of Congress. And what I will say about that is, as a woman veteran, if you haven't told your story, please make sure you do so. A friend of mine's, the way she put it is, it's our turn to write history. And she meant that both ways, because if we don't tell our stories, they don't get told accurately. We all know that history is written by white men, and we don't want our stories told that way. So you get to tell your story, and the Library of Congress is not looking for the vanilla story. They want your story the way it's written. So please contact somebody. If you need to know how to have your story told, contact me, and I'll give you the right contact for having your story told through the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. We're 10% of veterans, but only 6% of the stories that have been submitted to the Veterans History Project. So it's really important. One of the things that we do for cultural transformation is to make sure that policies, programs, and everything that's done, it includes women, that includes any veteran who identifies as a woman. So that's been something that we're proud of saying that when the veteran was, when the VA was only using LGBT, we were saying LGBTQ. When I came on board, we were putting it on our Facebook page, we were putting it on our social media, and people were saying, you can't do that. And I said, well, when they tell me to remove it, we'll remove it. Until then, my communications manager has her marching orders. Everything that we write will say LGBTQ plus. And so we were asked a couple of times, we got little emails that said we had to stop doing that. But, my motto is ask for forgiveness. And so, and then they changed it, not because of me necessarily. I like to think it was because of me, but, that's how I roll. But the VA, as Kristen said, the VA is marching forward, and women are included in that. And Secretary McDonough is a big piece of that. And one of the changes that he is focused on is making sure that change is improved for women. And that includes the sexual assault and harassment changes that are really important to Secretary McDonough, making sure that women have a safe place in the VA. When I started at the VA 16 years ago, I didn't have a safe place. My experience at the Boise VA was literally a broom closet, a janitorial space. Now women have women's clinics. And so if you've ever had a bad experience at a VA, I say try it again. If you have a friend, if you see a post on Facebook where they said, I went to the VA once and I'll never go back, gently inquire what once meant. Because in my time working as a women veterans coordinator, I often heard that once meant 7 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I encourage you to try it again. Maybe you were at a different VA, maybe something has changed at that VA. And I have a passion for making sure that women connect to their VA benefits and services for two reasons. One, I believe that you're better healthcare. Had I walked away from the VA when I went to the Boise VA hospital and said, I'm never going back to that joint, clearly it's for men, I would have missed out on some really excellent healthcare. Number one. Number two, money, not getting your service-connected disability benefits that you earned and you deserve is money left on the table in a lot of ways. When I was a single parent, that money mattered to me. It mattered. It put money in my pocket when I wasn't making great money. And it's tax-free money. And before COVID hit, I was still doing my work in Oregon. And I had been at a stand down, and a lot of people said, I've already got private health insurance. I don't need to let somebody who needs it apply for their benefits. We all need it. We all deserve it. Apply, even if you've already got healthcare insurance or what have you, you deserve it. You not applying for your benefits doesn't mean somebody else is going to get theirs. We can all apply for our benefits, and there's money for all of us. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was those same people who didn't apply for their benefits because they didn't think they deserved them or earned them, because they already had healthcare. When COVID hit, people were losing their jobs, and those same people were applying for their benefits because they suddenly needed them. But the list for benefits had become longer, and it was taking a long time to get them. Apply for your benefits now before you need them. Apply for them now so that they're there for you, so that you can get your hearing aids, so that you can get the health care that you need, so you can get that rehab for alcoholism, so you can get whatever you need. You earn them, you deserve them. And here's the thing that really changed my mind, that made me decide that my passion for women going to the VA was justifiably placed. I saw a chart from the suicide prevention coordinator at the Portland VA a couple of years ago, and it showed veterans, male veterans, female veterans, and it showed use of VA versus non-use of VA and how that mattered for people who were suicidal, had suicidal ideation, and it was about death by suicide, successful. And for veterans, it showed in this column how it reduced that death. For male veterans, it was one. For women veterans, when they use the VA, that number reduces so dramatically that we really have to make sure that women with mental health considerations are connected to the VA, because it does save lives. I'll say it again, using the VA saves lives. We have got to get women veterans connected to the VA. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. No healthcare provider is, but we're doing our best to make sure. And at the Center for Women Veterans, one of the things we've done is pushed out a survey that's targeting women who don't use the VA. And we want to know why. Why are you not using VA benefits and services? And so our goal is to get 20,000 women who aren't using their services and benefits to answer that question. Why are you not? Or that survey is only 4 minutes. And I'll make sure that I put that link in the chat so that you can share it with all of your partners. Not that we don't love the women who are using their services and benefits, but we want to hear from the women who aren't using their benefits and services. Why are you not using your benefits and services? And we do ask the MST question. And the reason we ask that is because we want to find out if there is a correlation between having military sexual trauma and not applying for your services and benefits. But other than that, they're fairly basic questions. So that's what we're doing at the VA. Is trying to focus on how do we improve our outreach so that we're getting those women. Oh, Kristen just posted it there. Thanks, Kristen. How do we get women veterans connected to their services and benefits? So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Liz. I mean, you were at the forefront of some, I mean, it's one thing to identify issues, and many of us in our work just keep coming across the problems, and we hear from veterans about their real experiences running into these problems at the VA of being assumed that they're a spouse or girlfriend instead of the veteran, to hearing about the harassment that they may have experienced or worse, that has happened system-wide, but that the VA is actively working to eradicate. I know that you've been part of leading that, the training, cultural change is slow, but it takes all of us actually to help make facilities and environments more friendly to everybody. So that everybody can feel, the dignity and respect that they deserve when they walk into a veteran space, whether that be VA hospital or a claims office or, or a meeting, a veterans organization meeting. Everybody's entitled to dignity and respect because of their service. But it's one thing to identify the problems and to say what we think needs to happen, but it's another thing to do the really hard, painstaking, and often just thankless daily work. So, so on behalf of New York State, I want to say thank you to you, Liz, for all that you have done for our facilities here in New York and around the country. It's a super big job. VA is massive, and the change is hard. The change is hard, but it takes dedicated, energetic people like Liz. And so, we are the ones we've been waiting for. You are the ones we've been waiting for. And so thank you for all that you're doing. So I think I want to open this to our full panel discussion. I know, folks are going to have questions as conversation, sparks your ideas and curiosity. Please feel free, attendees, to write questions in the Q&A section. We may miss them in the chat. But please introduce yourself in the chat, and please, add resources and information that in the chat. But if you have a question for us, please put that in the Q&A so that we're sure to see it. Also, I want to let you know that if you want to tell your story as a woman veteran, you can contact New York State Division of Veteran Services. You can contact us, and we'll direct you to the right resource. The New York State Military Museum has an oral history project. New York City Veteran Services has an oral history project. The Women's Memorial, I saw somebody post in there about the Women's Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery. They have a nationwide effort to capture stories as well and get them on file with the Library of Congress. Also, you can contact the Center for Women Veterans and Liz and her team. But again, please tell your story and let's be visible. Let's make sure that our stories get told and that we get to tell them as it truly happened. Because not everybody's going to recognize that. But I do want to open to our incredible panel of powerful women veteran leaders. I would like to introduce Sharon Bailey, who served in both the Army and the Air Force. I think you served longer in the Air Force, Sharon. So, but as an Army veteran, I needed to name that. And she is the Veteran Outreach Administrator for the PFC Joseph P. Dwyer Vet to Vet program at Bridges in Rockland County. We also have Tracy LoTemple, who is a Navy veteran and Director of Veteran Services for CompeerCORPS, and you're in Rochester. Are you in Rochester, actual Tracy? In Rochester. Yes. And so, and then we also have Lynn Magistrale, who served in both the Navy and the Air Force, who is a program coordinator for Western New York Heroes out of Buffalo. And we also have Andrea Molina, U.S. Marine Corps veteran and Director of Veteran Services, Vet to Vet at Family Services of Westchester. So, so the question that I want to lead off for each of you, and you can chime in as you're ready. Can you share about the work that you've done to serve women veterans and talk a little bit about what you see as successful in meeting the needs of women veterans? And just please jump in. Or I'll call on you, Sharon.
Well, thank you everyone for having me. This is a great panel, like you said, and we all have done something for women veterans. But for me, I was the Women Veteran Program Manager for the Hudson Valley VA. And the thing that I learned with connecting with veterans is women veterans specifically, we have to do it differently. And so I started networking and providing outings and, parties, and we had a tea party and women had their hats and we drank tea and we were entertained and had music. And it was just a great time to just connect. And then from there, we recognized one another. And I've always said, we got to identify and represent. So when I went to Bridges as the outreach administrator, we did a photo op and taking it a little bit from the VA with making the invisible visible. And so we started taking pictures of women in Rockland County or in the local area. And then those pictures went up in the mall, in Palisades Mall, and it stayed up for about 6 months. And you could see people looking at it like, wow. And then some of the women who had the pictures taken, it wasn't just pictures taken. We had Capri School. They did the hair and makeup, and it wasn't just a beauty thing, but it does everything that women need to do, and that is talk about it as they're getting made up. One female said she hadn't smiled like that in years because of the experiences that she had. And, it was just a great time. So when we saw the movie, This Is Not a War Story, it was about a Marine veteran who had gotten out of the Marines and came back to New York. And she was trying to get acclimated and she was having difficulties, and they were showing the peer support model, and they were doing frontline paper and doing the art and having somebody to walk alongside her. But she was the only female in this peer support group. And so the writer and director of the movie was a female who had trauma. And she said she was not a veteran, but she spoke and she wrote this movie so well that we said we got to wrap our arms around it. So we did another photo campaign called Boots and Gowns. So all of the women that were veterans, we got on gowns, and underneath the gowns, we had our boots on. And we talked about how delicate we could be, but don't mess with us, right? Because we got boots on. We had our dog tags. We had one MP, and she had this bad look on her face, but she had this gown on, and you just could not it was a different image that we were projecting. So it was great. And so those are the kind of things that we try to do with our women. And we know that it was just not the pictures, but it did display the pictures and got the message out there that the women are out there. And now, if you want to see those pictures, they're in Rockland County courthouse. It's not that we were wanted, but that's, when the jury comes in and they don't have anything else to do, they can see women veterans portray this this portrait of different styles and from different walks of life and different ages.
That's awesome, Sharon. I mean, to connect women to each other, women veterans to each other, to connect them to community, and to have them recognized in an official way in the community is so important. Like, just to be seen as part of your community as for your service. That's it. It seems so simple, but but it's just absolutely critical to this effort to be seen.
Some of us look like grandparents. We look like grandmas. We look sexy. Some of us, we need help, but whatever it was, it was, I think, powerful, because we know that a picture is worth everything. So it wasn't a question, is this person in the military? No, we showed we were in the military. You don't have to ask questions, and it helps people understand that there are women who have served and they deserve time. They deserve the space to say, this is what I did. And we know that not every woman feels comfortable. That's why I will wear my military hat all the time, just like the men do. The men do it all the time. And when I do it, a lot of times they say, oh, your dad was a veteran? Yes, he was, but I was too. Or when I had my Vet to Vet shirt on, they would say, oh, you're a veteran. I mean, no, you're a veterinarian. I was like, no, I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. No, not necessarily so. And so, you could see them trying to figure that out. And that's what I want to be, a conversation starter. And so I know not everybody can speak for themselves, but I want to be that conversation starter. So that's my philosophy on, I'm going to be a veteran. I'm going to be in the room. I'm usually the tallest one in the room, so it always throws people off, being 6'2". So I just like, well, might as well put a hat on it.
That's awesome, Sharon. Thank you for that. Andrea, can you talk a little bit about what you do and what's worked in your neck of the woods for women veterans?
I just have to say kudos to the VA when they came up with the whole women's care manager. It really facilitated services for us women veterans. It was a dream team with Sharon, and then I believe prior to Sharon, they also had 2 other veterans on staff in Montrose, which I found phenomenal and so relatable and so easy and encouraging. It's unfortunate that it is not possible to always have a women's care manager on staff with a veteran background. But it's still nonetheless very useful. So kudos to the VA for that, because I feel that was a big step up in encouraging women to go and use the VA and ask questions. And some questions you don't want to ask your male practitioner, right? So you have your women's care coordinator that could answer very awkward questions. Not everyone's okay with just talking about, their gynecological issues with their male provider. I mean, just say it. So kudos to the VA for that. Kudos for Sharon, because she was there. She was there at the VA, and she understands what it's like to provide services through the VA for us. And then she came out on the other side and didn't forget us, and she's still part of the peer movement. And with that, I'd like to say that for all us women veterans and in the audience, in our panels, let's not forget to voice our opinions, our thoughts, encourage our fellow sisters. It is very important that we do so. The last thing you need is for someone that's not a woman veteran to start establishing policies, benefits. And the other part is women veterans are sometimes used for a photo op and for granting opportunities. And we're so much more than that. There are a lot of opportunists in the lurk. And if we don't stand up the wrong people are going to take over. They're going to establish your service, and they're going to decide for you what you need for your mental health, for your physical health. So I encourage all women to stand up, represent, encourage. Here in my program, we included a paint night, sip and paint online. And I noticed that majority, if not all attendees, are women veterans. And can I tell you, it is so nice to have us hanging out every Friday night, every other Friday night, painting and having a sip of tea, wine, water, whatever. We spent some time during 9/11 a year back, and it was so healing for me and others to be together. This is not a competition. It doesn't matter how long you served, where you served, if you're combat or not. We just have to be there for each other, and we have to support each other. And let's not forget that. And I try to do this through my program. And I try to provide a safe space just for women. But mainly, I try to provide a safe space for everyone, formerly incarcerated, LGBTQ, older veterans. We not only have to support ourselves, but also support all those other sectors in the veteran community. People tend to forget the elderly, the formerly incarcerated, the disenfranchised, as I had mentioned. So that's my 2 cents.
That's awesome, Andrea. Thank you so much. And we'll hand you the mic again for sure. But thank you for sharing that, like truth. So thank you so much. Tracy, can you talk about the work that you do in Rochester and what successes you've had for women veterans, or what's on your mind?
Absolutely. I want to thank you, Andrea, for bringing up safe spaces, because when I didn't even acknowledge that I was a veteran for years when I got out of the military. I'm also married to a male veteran, and he has this great camaraderie, VFWs, things of that nature. And, when I found the Dwyer program, I realized that, this is a space for everybody. So when I came on board, I really wanted to make sure that it was a safe space. And when I started finding other female veterans that felt like myself, it was just easy and natural for us to get together and have fun. And that's all it was about, was creating that atmosphere that you're safe, you're welcome. I don't care what it says on your DD-214. I don't care, if you served one day or if you retired from the military. You're my sister, and I want to spend time with you, and I want to get to know you, and I want to enjoy in these activities with you. Much like Sharon, we started a Sisters in Service project up here, and Lynn Magistrale and Western New York Heroes got involved right before the pandemic, actually. And we took pictures of our sisters with something memorable from their time in service, holding it in their hands, and they were black and white photos. And then we had a huge, at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, we had a huge display of all these, and they were actually able to bring those items out, things that meant something to them about their time in service, and share them with everybody who walked through that day. And it was just so fantastic, because the littlest thing can bring back the best memory from your time in service. It doesn't have to be a medal. It doesn't have to be anything big like that. It can be, combat boots. And for somebody, that's what they chose to highlight in their picture, was their combat boots, because they feel like they served for peace, because peace was their ultimate goal. And that was such a beautiful message, and not the script that people usually get from veterans. So it was so great to hear those different stories and hear the women tell them in their own words. And I think that's what it's about, is us finding that ability to share our voices with each other. And then when we're strong, right, we can be that force in the community and let the male veterans know that we're here too, and we need to be heard and be a part of this community as well. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this, Kristen. I want to thank you for reaching out to me too. This is such a great day.
Oh, fantastic. So honored to have you, honored to have each and every one of you on this panel. So proud of what we're doing in New York State and around the country. Just really incredible work at a much needed time. Lynn, you have done amazing work in Buffalo, and I've been honored to see just a little bit of it. Can you share what you've been doing and some of what's what's succeeded for women veterans.
So like we're all saying right now, at one point in time, we didn't recognize we were a veteran. Why? I don't know. I look back and want to, you know, kick my old self and say, what the heck were you doing? What were you thinking? And I searched and searched. After I had retired, my transition was terrible. I know that's not for everybody, but I do know that it also is for a lot of people. And even after searching, I just kept hitting roadblocks. And after being in the veteran community, I think of how much service we have and how many wonderful people with working with Tracy. Oh my gosh, meeting Sharon through pandemic, meeting you, Kristen, through global pandemics, because thank God for Zoom, and just the connections that we made when we're in lockdown. And I kind of took that as, holy cow, we're in a pause. And then I rewound back to when I was transitioning, and there's all that hecticness going on, if that's even a word, and you know, just all the overstimulation that you're receiving from retiring may or may not be your choice. For me, it wasn't. And for trying to figure out all the avenues that you're supposed to go down and where to even start. So after my life settled down a little bit, I thought we should probably start talking to female veterans, because how much easier is that to talk to our fellow sisters and to maybe be able to feel comfortable with opening that conversation to a bigger audience. So we started out small. There were 8 of us that showed up, and it was pure mayhem because, well, let's face it, we're women. And then it just exploded. And every month we got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we decided to do a retreat against my better judgment, but it was a huge success. It was crazy. I'm not an event coordinator. I always joke that I'm the grunt. I'm the worker. I'm retired Air Force, and I also had 13 years in the Navy as well before Air Force. But that I was a worker. Put me to work and I'll do it. Don't have me take charge of a group. And I did. And I thought, okay, our groups had grown up to about 30 women. And our first retreat had 87 female veterans sign up. I thought, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And I'll tell you what, it worked because we all worked together. We had a female veterans group. We had the stylists prepared to come in, do our hair and makeup for LinkedIn pictures or whatever, just for fun. If you wanted to use them, the stylists double booked. They never showed. So I'm at TJ Maxx and all these Walmarts and buying hair and makeup accessories. And the reason I'm telling this is because we all did ourselves. You have this 25-year-old female veteran doing this 65-year-old female veteran's makeup who doesn't even wear any makeup and felt so beautiful. And that is where our pictures took place. That is where our memories took place, because we all bonded together and we did it. We did it ourselves. And 4 years later, we're still going strong and we're still learning. As Tracy knows, she was at our last one. Things happen, oops, and we adapt and overcome, because that is who we are, because we're pretty strong and we're women and we're resilient. And my God, some of us have produced other life. So by being moms and whatnot, but it's just been fabulous. We have been working hard on our next retreat. And I really want to eventually open it up to all of New York State, and where we can all work together and do something together, which I know, especially Sharon, we've talked about through the PFC Dwyer program. So we do cover, we have boots on the ground in Genesee County. We do as much as we can with other groups. And I'll tell you right now, without Tracy and Sharon and all of you working together where our counties may overlap or where they don't, let's trade ideas. Let's come up with different kinds of ideas that we can get creative, what's needed, what's not needed. But we're just doing as much as we can here. And I'm not even for a second going to pretend like I know all the answers, because I don't. And I'm constantly picking up phones, and canceled on Tracy twice now for a lunch date. And, you know, so I really just working together and making this world a better place for all of us female vets is amazing. And so if there's anything that we can do here with Western New York Heroes, we would love to. We have our monthly dinners, and I know we're kind of out in Western New York, but hey, I'm a single mom now. I'm a lonely mom now. They're both off to college. I got 4 bedrooms. Come on in, stay at my house or stay at the office. Let's have coffee and let's work together, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that works, is working together.
That's amazing, Lynn. And you, I mean, just since I first started, you know, to talk with you, just incredibly impressed by the work that you do. And And also, like, during the height of the pandemic, seeing a bunch of women come together over Zoom for a cooking class or for, sharing experiences over a retreat. If you have a virtual component to the retreat, we will absolutely put it out on, through our channels for New York State. And, we have more than 90 folks on this Zoom right now. If everybody who is on this Zoom wants to commit to helping to publicize this great event or any other great events that are happening for women veterans across New York State, I mean, let's connect from the far end of Long Island. And, if we got any folks out in Montauk all the way over to Buffalo and Niagara Falls, I mean, let's connect across the state as New Yorkers. That's a lot of, we had Commissioner Hendon on for our last event, representing New York City. We don't have any city folks on except myself, any city veteran services folks. I see you in the chat there. I see you, Tanya. And so, keep working your city charm in the chat there. I welcome everybody from the city to connect with her. But if we can do a better job from, connecting the downstate with the upstate, the city to the rural, I think that makes us all wiser and better and more connected as veterans, for sure. I mean, thank you all for that. Another question I have is, what are the gaps and disparities that you've seen when you've served women veterans? I mean, we've seen statistics that that women veterans are less likely to be accessing and being awarded their benefits. I mean, this is the history of women serving in the military, is less likely to be recognized, less likely to be to access those benefits and services, and more likely to be denied. I mean, that's been the long history that this movement represents, that we are trying to change, that we are actively trying to change. And so, and Liz, if you have the best vantage point to to be seeing this and articulating it from from where you are now, where we've been and where we want to go. Can you talk for a few minutes about the disparities that women veterans face, and just what we need to do to remedy that?
And I'm so glad you asked, because just this morning I got some new numbers on women veterans and I have them here, on women veterans who have
coming prepared. That's what women veterans do. I will tell you. I mean, veterans generally do that, but count on it, especially Liz.
Well, I actually got the email just about like 9 o'clock this morning, and I did the math, which is hard for me. But it's actually the numbers for women veterans versus men who used VSOs and those who didn't. And it's those for service-connected benefits filed, granted, and denied between 2018 and 2022. And I for years, women were receiving their service-connected disability benefits at a much lower rate. And I was just talking about this the other day in regards especially to Women's History Month. We know that women veterans who were combat veterans especially were suffering from that because of the combat exclusionary policy. That was a terrible burden for women, because they were coming back and applying for those, and the VA was saying, I'm sorry, women aren't in combat. There are no combat veteran benefits for you. And so, like the Lionesses, for instance, and women, especially post 9/11 and Gulf War benefits or veterans. So, and also MST benefits, women veterans for a long time were not getting those benefits. And the VA they've had some audits, they've had some IG issues, and they hired MST coordinators. Our office works very closely with the VBA MST group. And I want to say, if anybody, if you are having a problem, if you have a veteran who has a need or has an issue for their claims, one of our congressional mandates, people don't know this, is to intervene, is to support. We can't do it personally, well, we can kind of, but we provide advocacy. If a woman veteran contacts our office and says, I'm having this problem and I've been to everybody else and nobody can help me, we can. So I'll make sure that you have the contact information, but that's one of our roles, is to provide advocacy and services to women veterans and or partners. So for the, historically, women have not received their services and benefits at the same rate as men. The VA is working to close that gap, and especially for the disparities in healthcare. They're working on ensuring that women have equal equitable services at the VA for healthcare. But for service-connected disability benefits from 2018 to 2022, women who used VSOs versus men who used VSOs to file their claims, I was really impressed that they had this information. 83% of women who used VSOs received their service-connected benefits, compared to 17% were denied. For men, 80% were granted their benefits and 20% were denied. For women who did not use their veteran service organization or officer, and now I will tell you, this didn't say whether it was what kind of VSO. It didn't say if it was a county VSO. It didn't say what kind. So for women who did not use a VSO, it was impressive. I don't know if it's just because we're so naturally smart and pay attention to details, but 82% of women were granted their service-connected disability benefits, compared to 18% of women, only 77% of men, compared to 23% of men. I know that I see on Facebook a lot of women veteran groups, national and advocates who provide support for women veterans who are doing their own filing. I don't know if it's because women veterans, if it's that, we have the National Association of State Women Veteran Coordinators, who provide a lot of support to women veterans who are filing their benefits. I'm not sure I think it would be a really interesting research project to try to understand why the women veterans who are filing without the support of a VSO are doing better than men. But that's the information that I received this morning in my email. So I'm relieved to see that because we hear a lot about people who aren't receiving their benefits. So I'm really glad to see that gap has closed and women are getting their benefits.
That's great news, and it's great. I mean, it's great to share that, because individual areas may vary, but overall the trend lines are going in the right direction. I mean, there's still a lot of folks who are who just don't have the help to file claims. And I do want to mention that New York State DVS, also New York City DVS, many of our county veteran service officers are able to help veterans file VA claims. And you will likely want that help. So please contact us, and we will set you up with an appointment near you with a veteran service officer near you. For New York State, we have veteran benefits advisors. We have them spread across the state, and we also work with our county partners. And so we want to make sure that you have the help that you need to file those VA claims, to, as Liz mentions, to dramatically increase your possibility for success, to get that first time go with your claim, or to shorten the time that it takes to get your claim approved. That's so important.
I want to add, Kristen, I think some of the women that I speak to, I've always said this: you don't have to just go to the first person whose desk you sit down at. If you're not comfortable with the person, you can interview them. You can say, how many have you worked with women veterans? Have you worked on these type of claims? Have you been successful? If you're not connected to that veteran service officer, get up and leave. Go find a different one. Talk to other women veterans and say, who did you use? Were you successful in filing your claim? Who did you use? And go to that person. I think that's the mistake that so many people make. I've heard too many women say, I'm not comfortable with that person. I wasn't comfortable with them. They didn't listen to me. And women need to be listened to, and they should be listened to, but there's that doesn't often happen. So you don't have to go to the first person whose desk you sit at.
Absolutely. And in most places, like I saw mentioned in the chat, definitely with our agency and other places, if you would prefer to sit with a woman veteran, request it. Because generally speaking, there are women veterans who are available to process your claim. or to help you or otherwise advise. So, so please make that request if you'd like to.
And LGBTQ in Oregon, in some states, they have LGBTQ or LGBTQ friendly VSOs too. So I think that's really an important thing to point out.
Absolutely, and our, like, all of our staff, you know, in New York State have, you know, received a lot of awareness and sensitivity training so that they are culturally competent in serving all of our state's veterans. It's so important, and part of change is making sure that everybody's on the same page and making sure that all veterans, no matter who you are, what your experience was, who you love, what your gender is, gender identity, gender presentation, no matter who you are, that you are entitled to dignity and respect and to have your claim professionally filed. So, so we definitely want to project that for New York State. Sharon, can you talk about some of the disparities that you've seen and how we can, how you've worked to bridge that gap? For the disparities you've seen.
I just wanted to add to what we've been talking about, and that is the claim process. I've seen a number of veterans, especially women veterans, that don't represent themselves well, and they need that support, you know, and that's where the peer support comes in, is that they may need somebody to walk alongside them when they go into the claims process. They don't know the process, they get defensive, and then they shut themselves down. And then once they shut themselves down, then it's me against them, especially if they had prior encounters with the claim process. So I was working with a veteran for the last year, and she had been in the Army, she had gotten out, and she got out on medical, and they had given her a disability and then they took it away. So she's already coming from, they took it away, I don't need it, I don't deserve it, but I'm still in pain. So when she went to her next meeting, she got very, very defensive, and they still denied her. So I went with her, and the same thing happened. She was getting very anxious. She was getting to the point where, you know, she was shutting down. She was then starting to be somewhat combative. And I, you know, locked her in, you know, since I'm the major, I just said, you stop it right now. You will breathe, and then you will tell them what you need. You're not going to be defensive. You're not going to be combative, and do what you need to do. She went from 0 to 90 because of her being able to tell her story, but she was getting in her own way to tell her story, and just getting more amped up. And so sometimes we just need somebody to walk alongside us that's been through the process, that can help just say, you know, you have to explain, because the people don't know you. You have to explain to them your story. And sometimes it's having to tell the story over and over again as well. Depending on how bad the story is, you need somebody there for you. And if you need help, you need to ask for it. Because sometimes just telling the story can put me back into that place. And then I don't have anybody to help me out of that place. So it's twofold. We need help going through that process, especially if it's an MST issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Andrea, can you talk to some of the disparities that you've seen with women veterans and how you've worked to bridge that gap?
So just like Sharon, I'm going to talk about claims, and then I'm going to talk about my experience, my personal experience with the VA. I live 10 minutes from the Bronx VA, but I use the Montrose VA, which is almost an hour away. And one thing I did notice, because I am a provider, I get to see, like Sharon, I accompany people sometimes to their appointments, right? Some people just feel like they can't get through the door because they're so anxious. And I've noticed the difference when in the Bronx. I know this was a while back, things have changed. You know, like Ms. Estabrooks mentioned, things continuously change. You can't believe that it's going to stay the same. You always have to go back and check. But I noticed there was a difference when they treated male veterans versus female veterans. And when I asked for, like, let's say lidocaine patches, their response was, that's too expensive. Even though I'm service connected for that area that I asked for, their response was, no, lidocaine patches are too expensive. Whereas there was a male veteran, and this is how I found out that they could prescribe lidocaine patches. I went with a male veteran, and he had some kind of pain, not service related, and they happily wrote him a prescription and got him on a monthly rotation for lidocaine patches. No questions asked, no x-rays, no MRIs, here you go. Then I came in after acupuncture and everything else, and they were like, it's too expensive. We can't help you.
Wow.
Just use acupuncture and therapy in your heating pad and have a nice day. And I was like, what? What do you mean? So I wrote the patient advocate, letting her know that there was this thing going on, because I think it's important. You can't fix things if you don't let anyone know. If you walk away sulking, nothing is going to change. So I wrote the patient advocate, nothing happened. So I said, well, okay, so you know what? I can't stop from going, and I can't stop myself from using services. I'm just going to move to Montrose and get myself there. And everything, in fact, did change. And then I heard through the grapevine that things have immensely changed in the Bronx VA since then. Now, touching on the whole service connection issue, in my area, we don't have many women service officers. And I have had a couple of individuals, not only women, that have experienced MST. And one thing I noticed is that they don't have enough females, and then there isn't that bedside manner, right? When we're talking MST, when you're asking the person to repeat the story over and over and saying, hey, did this really happen to you? I don't know. That's traumatizing in itself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it incites suicidal ideation for some individuals. So we have to be there for those individuals, whether sitting in the room or outside as a support system. I'm also asking, for the people that I work with as far as service officers to consider taking some kind of basic trauma training. Just because you have to ask certain questions, you have to be coy on how you ask these questions. And remember that it is trauma. You may not understand the type of trauma, but it is trauma. So you have to be especially thoughtful and empathetic when writing up a statement for service connection. So these are little details you experience as a provider and for yourself. And I think it deserves mentioning them because some people don't know, they don't understand. It's part of the educational process and perhaps in the long run creating change. Thank you.
Awesome, Andrea. And thank you for sharing your own personal story. That's always, like we mentioned, when you tell something traumatizing once, twice, many times over, that in itself can be a trauma. And so I just always want to appreciate how brave it is to share your story in front of others, and but also how important that is in making other people feel heard and not alone. And so, thank you for that, and thank you for the work that you've done. Tracy, can you speak to some of the disparities that you've seen for women veterans and what you've done to work on bridging those gaps?
Absolutely, and I'm going to come from a personal standpoint here too. It's because of women getting together and talking openly like this, that I actually found my way back to the VA. When I got out, I was 22 years old. I had a terrible experience and I just stuffed it down and dealt with it and just didn't go back to the VA. So therefore, I never got treated for the things that I needed to be treated for with my service-connected disability. All these years later, finally connecting with my sisters, hearing, people like this talk, and like Liz said, you got to give them another try. You got to get back in there. Things have changed. Things have progressed. And I started seeing Dr. Campbell, who I think is on this Zoom at my local VA. And one of the first things she said to me after I kind of gave her my backstory and why I'd been away for so long, she said, we need to do better for women veterans. And that was just a weight lifted off my shoulders. Finally, somebody who sees me for my service, who doesn't think that, I just sat shuffling papers, that, I didn't contribute like a male veteran did, and who was willing to listen and understand what I had to say. And now anytime I feel like I'm not being heard because I'm a female veteran, I know she's my person that I can go and talk to. And I know she'll listen and hear me. So I put this out to female veterans I come across all the time: give the VA a second chance. And like Sharon said, interview your providers, make them work for you. That's what they're there for. So if you're not comfortable, find the next person that can help you, because they're out there and they will listen to you and they will care about your story and what you have to say.
Truth. And that's, I mean, that's true of any service, whether it be, you know, a mental health provider. Like maybe the therapist you first see is not the right one for you. And so go on to the next one, the next provider who is going to work for you. Whether, you know, so mental health, filing claims, any kind of service that you need. Don't just try it once, try it again, and try to find the right person. I mean, so important. And also, like, just to reinforce, like, it is so important to hear that the stories of women veterans, the stories of who we are, no matter who we are, like if we're LGBTQ, if we're, you know, whatever we identify as, if we're a racial or ethnic or religious minority, to hear that we matter, that our stories individually matter, and our experiences and our unique qualities matter. Like, lift that up, lift up people, lift up these stories, and name us, tell us. You know, like it may not come out right if you're trying it for the first few times, but speak inclusion and speak your values, and it will get better. That conversation will keep getting better. But we need to hear that from our leaders, from our colleagues. It really truly matters. Lynn, can you share the disparities that you've seen or experienced, and what you've done to work through those?
So like everybody is saying and sharing their own personal stories, until we experience it sometimes, unfortunately, can we speak it? Can we speak the truth of what happened? You know, anybody, I can go to you, Kristen, or Tracy, or Elizabeth, or anybody on this panel and say, oh my gosh, this is what happened to me. And I'm sure I'm going to get a response of some sort of help and inspiration, something to help motivate me to do the right thing, to take care of it. But at the same time, until you actually go through it, can you go forward and work through it? So having said that, I just want to say, holy cow, at you all sharing your stories. I too have had traumatic experience. Excuse me, I'm not getting emotional. I got a cold. I've had a traumatic experience as well with the VA, and it took a long time to use that to empower me. I am one that can advocate for anybody, but when it comes time to myself, I would be like that little turtle going right in that shell. And it's not okay. But once we started having these conversations and getting in these groups, holy cow, imagine, you know, retiring, going in transition, scared Lynn, being able to walk into that VA center with Tracy, who had gone through it. I'm now 40. She went through it at 22. And I'm picking on you, Tracy, to use that as an example. That age barrier, that age difference. You're going back to your 22-year-old self. I'm now retiring at 40, and I would have so much more empowerment walking through those doors with you, Tracy, after what you've been through. So we try and go forward with this program, and it's completely out of our realm, or isn't it? To go and walk through those doors to a VA appointment with somebody just to be there. We're not the muscles, or maybe we are, but we're there for that encouragement and to have that extra ear and that extra person to walk through those doors. Sometimes that's the hardest part. And had I had somebody just to get me to walk through those doors and stay focused and snap their finger in my face or nudge me or laugh at me or yell at me or whatever it took to get me to wake up and hear the words that I'm hearing, it would have made such a tremendous difference in getting that care that I needed. So I don't take responsibility for it. I don't think it was totally my fault at all. And I'm never going to blame myself for that transition and, you know, the experience that I had. But I am going to say, and I'm going to use this line because I heard it recently again, and I kind of giggled, when you know better, you do better. And how true is that? As soon as you know something, you do something. And that's what we're all here for. And somebody else posted, Elizabeth, she's amazing too. Elizabeth posted Medina in the chat there. We need to have this shared over and over and over. And I need to repeat myself over and over. We all do, because people are chiming in here that may not have had this. And now they're thinking, holy cow, this is exactly what I was thinking. So having these sessions, if you will, both virtually and in person is super important for us all to feel empowered to get the knowledge. And I have copied and pasted so many. I have 2 pages of a Word document already filled of connecting with all these people that I didn't even know before. So how awesome is that, that I have, you know, these things for someone that calls here from Nassau County and I don't have services that cover there. Now I do have somebody that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, or send you an email. So this is super important. And I cannot tell you enough about how awesome this is for myself to share with my fellow veterans, because I go back to, I wasn't 22, but I go back to my 40-year-old self who felt like I was 18, just joining the military for the first time all over again, getting reacclimated to the community as an adult. And people tend to look at you differently when you are 40 years old as opposed to 22. And I'm not taking away from Tracy's experience by any means. It had to be terrifying at your age. But that's how I felt at 40. I thought, holy cow, I feel 18 all over again, interviewing for a first job and so on and so forth. So this is awesome. And I'm rambling now, but thank you so much for having this. I really appreciate it.
Lynn, you said it perfectly. I want to thank you actually, because you're right. When I go back to the VA and I feel like I'm being judged, I feel 22 again. I had that exact feeling. I got in my car and cried when I had a recent bad experience at a specialty provider, because I felt I could not advocate for myself again, but I'll do it for anybody else. But so this is why we need to have this open discussion. And thank you, Kristen, for having these for us. They're amazing and they keep us all going.
No, thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Tracy, for chiming in again. I mean, this is important, and everybody who's on here, if I have your email address, I'm going to email you with a link to the recording of this Zoom, so that you can watch it on our YouTube channel and you can share it with others. And also, we will capture any questions that went unanswered, and also we'll reach out back to you. And it is my work to continue to build this community and network statewide. And so this will definitely not be the last that you hear, or our last opportunity to connect as women veterans. We're not just going to do this once a year. We're going to keep connecting on, on different issues, but and as different subsets of veterans. But we definitely want to continue the conversation and advance inclusion and recognition and community for all of us. I do want to go back to Liz and ask, just to sort of like close out your portion of the comments. I think we can go to some questions, but what, Liz, what do you wish that service providers across New York or the country, those of us who are working in state offices and county offices, with the different kinds of organizations that our panelists work with, what do you wish all of us as providers knew about the Center for Women Veterans or VA's Services for Women Veterans in general?
I think that there are a couple of things. There's the VA and there's Center for Women Veterans, and I want providers to know that we're here, and that we're here. Our mandate is to policy and programs to advise the secretary and leaders on those. And so that we take that seriously, cultural transformation and advocacy to change, advocacy for women veterans, and research. And so we do all of that. We engage, feet first, head first. We jump, we're in the pool. And I want people to know that you can contact us. Like if there's an issue, I can't personally handle everything because it's just me. I'm just one person, and we have a small staff. There are only 7 of us. So it's kind of hard to save the world with only 7 people, but we do a damn fine job of trying. And so I think what I want providers to know is if there's something, I believe in the chain of command. If there's a problem with your VA, try to solve that with your VA. If you can't, if you are having a problem that's making you sit in your car and cry, that really ticks me off. And that shouldn't be happening. Not in today's VA, not ever. If there's a problem that's making women veterans sit in their car and cry, we need to be addressing that. If you've gone to your patient advocate, if you've gone to all of the different routes and it's still not fixed, the Center for Women Veterans, we need to know about that, because if we can't know, we can't address it. And if we don't know, we can't address it. So we're not asking women veterans to call us immediately if they're sitting in their car and crying. But if it was so bad that something happened to you, and you first go through the routes to try to fix it, and if you got blown up or if it didn't get fixed, then you come to us and you say, this is a problem at our Bronx VA. And I sent a message, I think, to Andrea. If this is a problem, the solution shouldn't be change VAs. That's not a solution. The solution should be change that VA, so that women veterans don't have to change their VA. And I always, I used to be in the nonprofit field, and I said, I don't believe in the trickle down theory. I believe in the rise up theory. What we do at the bottom for one group changes it for everybody. If we improve services for women veterans, we improve it for all the veterans that use that facility. And if women veterans are having a problem getting something because they're being told it's too expensive while the men veterans are getting it, then damn it, we need to be addressing that as a problem. So if that's happening to 1 or 6 or 12 or 40 or 100 women veterans at the Bronx, somebody needs to be writing me a letter and saying, hey, this is happening at the Bronx, or it's happening at Manhattan, or it's happening it's happening where at this CBOC. That's what I want providers to know, that we're here from the tip of Florida to the tip of Alaska and in Guam and Philippines and Puerto Rico and wherever there's a VA, we're here so that if those problems aren't being fixed, what can we do to fix that? And we're also here to make sure that providers are hearing the message that they're taking out there, that women served, that change your culture, if you're sitting in your office, when I'm training, the message I always say to people, whether they're internal or external, is the assumption is that men are veterans and women are not. Let's change that. I'm not asking you to replace that image of man in your head. I'm asking you to scooch them over and make room for woman, trans woman, black woman, black man. Like, I want all the veterans right there in your head, not just the one, not just the white man with the gun, because that's not this is not your daddy's veteran. This is like everybody. And so I think that partners need to get on board with that. I think that when partners get on board with that, because not all partners look like our panel. Partners look like a lot of different people. And so I think that's what I want partners to know, is that the Center for Women Veterans is leading that with our partners. Come to our partners meeting the first Wednesday of every month, and you'll hear great things about what the VA is doing, because we have people from the VA talking about new things that are happening with women's health, new things that are happening, not just with, I always say women veterans we're not just what's between our breasts and our vaginas. We're like whole people. We don't just exist between here and here. We're like whole people. And so go onto our website and you can sign up to come to get the email about our partners meetings the first Wednesday of every month at 1 Eastern time, and you'll learn about what's going on. So that's what I want partners to know. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Like, I feel like this, you just round the world with Center for Women Veterans, but also to yes, and Liz's statement, if you have an issue, so it's not just Tracy sitting in her car crying. I've been the veteran sitting on the subway crying on the way back from a VA visit. I mean, I think so many of us have those stories where providers just were not culturally competent to serve us, to treat us with that dignity and respect. And even they might have said something stupid, or they might have said something intentionally harmful. But let's fix it. And also you can contact me. I'll be emailing you And so that you can contact me and we can work together to find a solution. We can loop in Liz and her team at the Center for Women Veterans, but you're not alone. If you're a woman, if you're LGBTQ, if you are, gender diverse, if you identify as non-binary or non-conforming, or, wherever you're at, if you are not receiving that culturally competent care, dignity, and respect, contact me. Because that's what I'm here to do. That's what New York State taxpayers pay me for, is to make sure that we can do better for all of us here in New York State. So also, we're this conversation, I wish that this conversation could go on for a very, very long time, but we will have to begin to circle in to wrap up. But let's go to some of the Q&As, and thank you all for, and I do want to make sure that all of your questions get answered. So never fear if you asked a question and we don't get to it before our time runs out. I will endeavor to get you the answers that you deserve. I see Kristen Courage writes in the Q&A that you have an event coming up and you're looking for strategies that we recommend to be inclusive and celebrate non-binary individuals in awards and award ceremonies. And some of it is about asking the veteran directly. How do you identify? How can we address you? And how can we best include you? Not to put the burden on them to tell you how to include them, but to ask for their input and just ask what their comfort level is, and name them. Even just naming people and naming inclusion is really important. And I think that the more we try to do it, and we will get it right, and we will, when you ask, uplift their voices and uplift their experiences. Let's all work together to build more inclusive spaces, but ask people directly too. Does anybody on the panel have experiences with that? And Liz, if you want to name what like you all at the Center for Women Veterans, I know have been working to really change kind of how you all are speaking to folks.
I just have to say that I noticed, I've been doing this for 10 years with the Dwyer program, and I noticed a very subtle difference when I market events. I decided to add a very small line, all are welcome. And I noticed a surge in registrations for my events. All are welcome. That simple statement really hit home for so many people. And I did notice there was a change in registrations for all my events when I include that blurb, all are welcome. And really mean it, right? All are welcome, seriously. And the ones that you don't want to show will gladly not show, because they understand that statement. And they say, it's not for me. Yeah, no, it's not. So that tiny statement is very powerful, and I noticed. And then one more thing, I just want to say that information is power, and I think knowing what the next step when you contact a patient advocate if it goes nowhere, needing to know where to go next and putting that information out there is very useful, and it's very empowering. When you're exhausted, you give up, and you feel like you've reached the ceiling, but there is more, and you don't know. You don't know. So I think having that information out there is crucial. So thank you, Liz. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Outstanding. So there's a question from Celeste about services, programs, or organizations on Long Island. Celeste, I promise you that even though we did not fit in our great Long Island veterans on this particular event, we will strive to do so the next time around. And also I will make sure that we have Long Island Resources name in the follow-up email that I send to you all so that you can connect. I recently relocated to New York City. I noticed that Queens only has a clinic attached to a VA home. To get any specialty services, we have to go to Brooklyn or Manhattan. Will Queens get an actual VA hospital? Sharon, thank you for that question. I haven't seen where VA is looking to expand actual facilities in Queens. I don't know, Liz, if you, I know you have a very high level view, but probably not of exact facilities.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but that's above my pay grade. So I can't say that and that's really, about funding. We get our funding from Congress. And so we're really dependent on what they give us. So I haven't heard anything about any new funding, honestly. That's not to say that there isn't. I haven't heard. I would say for anything like that, that's a congressional request.
Right. And also, like, definitely let your elected officials know, your members of Congress, your senators, let them know how they're doing, because they're the ones who control the purse strings and the policies of VA. So if you need something and can't get it through other channels, you can also contact your elected members of the House and the Senate. And also Sharon Chambers Murphy, so Tanya from New York City Veteran Services is on here. I know she's offered up her contact information, and I'll make sure that I list that in the follow-up email as well. Andrea Nordquist says that, Andrea Nordquist is in Nassau and Suffolk, and wants everyone to know that the Air Force Association is hosting a ceremony to honor all women veterans. And with your contact information in there, and I'll make sure that that's included in the follow-up email as well. So because we definitely want to connect. Cheryl Dupree asks about how does the VA handle hospice and VA possible suicide? I don't know if you want to touch on that, Liz.
And that's a good question, Cheryl. I can, if you want to send me an email, I'll send you my email address. I'll put it in the chat in the question for you or answer. I don't know. I can send my person at the Suicide Prevention Office an email, but that's not something I've ever been asked or heard about. So I will. It's a good question though. So I will ask that question and get back to you.
Outstanding. Thank you. And thank you all for those questions. So final like lightning round for everybody. What's one thing you can share that you wish everybody knew, every American knew about women serving in the military? I'll go to you, Tracy. I know it's kind of a big question, but like what or what's a thing that you wish that everybody knew or thought of about women serving in the military?
I think my biggest wish would be for people to just listen. I think this whole idea of comparing service, comparing life experiences is ridiculous. And I think that us as female veterans just want to be listened to and heard. So if they really want to know about our service, listen when you ask us that question.
Truth. Thank you so much. Lynn, what's one thing or a thing that you wish that everybody knew about women who served in the military?
Well, I'm glad you went with Tracy first, because that is a lightning question. I have to say the same thing. I don't mean to mimic, but I mean, it's Tracy, so why not? Seriously, just listen. People need to understand that women serve too, is the dead set question that we're answering here. I got people waving to me in my door here, so I'm just going to wave. But they have to recognize that women serve too, and without us telling our stories, they're not going to know. We're giving them that path to just keep on walking by without us trying to find that courage within. And if you need someone to walk with you, we can see it right here. There's so many people that have that sisterhood, and we're willing to link that arm and drag you along with us and tell that story. Because let's face it too, women love to talk. Find that safe ground.
Andrea, what's one thing or a thing that you wish everybody knew about
Sure.
women who served in the military?
I don't have children, and I serve with some very fabulous women, and I am godmother to some of those children. And the word sacrifice has almost become like a punchline. But for women, it encompasses more than just your everyday sacrifice. Women are having children, and they aren't there to raise their children because they're serving their country. It hits home harder when you think about children left behind and women leaving their children behind, leaving their families behind. Just where men walk, we have to fly, right? We have to work harder, faster, better, harder, repeat over and over and over, just to be considered an eagle, where, you know, the biggest slob is an eagle, and we run circles around them. We still have to keep doing it and keep it up over and over. And don't you dare break down. Don't you cry. Don't you show any emotion. I mean, I was in the Marine Corps, and this is my experience. I can only speak on that. But if it hurts, suck it up. Don't even flinch. And that's part of the sacrifice. It's not the punchline usual, you don't have your everyday freedoms. It's so much more for women, and people need to understand and know that.
That I know so many women veterans will identify with that. Like that's, I mean, and one of the reasons why we have this conversation is just to let people know that your experience, you're not alone in your experience. And so just to recognize that and to see the experience of so many women veterans. And, you know, I mean, men are fathers too, you know, and it's you know, there's many similarities, but it's, you know, but women, of course, societally, we're experiencing this differently, and we experience parenthood differently in many ways. Sharon, what's your one thing or a thing that you wish that everybody knew about women serving in the military?
That we should be recognized for our service, regardless of what we look like, where we've been. I agree with Andrea. My sons call me Major Pain, you know, because, you know, that's the way mom was. You know, you're not going to get a sob story from mom, and she's not going to listen to a sob story. But we do have feelings, you know, and we do give all that we can give, and we will raise our right hand, and we will give our lives just like our counterparts, regardless of who they are. So that's just what we would do.
Thank you, Sharon. That's, I didn't know that Major Pain was a family moniker. That's great. That's awesome. I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us, you know, from your busy day in DC. I mean, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Sharon, for sharing your personal stories, your professional stories, and your insights with everybody on this Zoom. It's, you know, it's so important to share these experiences, to open up these contact networks. Thank you to everybody. I mean, you've been so active in the chat and the Q&A that I've definitely not been able to keep up, and I apologize for that, but I will endeavor to answer all of your questions. You will get an email from me naming the different programs that we've seen today, and sending you a link to the video of this Zoom so that you can share it. Please share it widely if you are so moved, and let's commit to continuing the conversation, to being in touch, to looping in more service providers, more professionals, more resources, more veterans, and to build our community and network toward inclusiveness so that we can do better as a state. And thank you, Liz, for all you're doing to serve all of us better as a country. Thank you all. And with that, I think we will make our time. We will make our time. Thank you, everybody. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, everyone.